Hi, welcome to the TechHub.training solution video for the Powering Up PowerQuery challenge in Excel. As per usual, we recommend that before watching this video, you attempt to create your own solution so that it is more beneficial to your learning experience. However, if you are running into issues or if you found your own challenge, then this video hopefully will be of use to you. After you do find a solution, please also reply to the challenge and post your solution so that you can be a part of our community. In this video, we will be going over the steps that I took to reach a solution, and they may or may not coincide with the steps that you took. As long as you reach the same thing, the same solution in the end, that is what's most important. So don't become disheartened or anything if it doesn't match up perfectly. But let's get into it. In the instructions, you are told that you are starting off in your job as an associate and you are given some sales data, and this challenge is special because it's based off of a real world solution that an accounting firm gave to their clients for analyzing credit card sales. And so I worked with this company in order to create the data and the challenge steps so that a meaningful solution could be found as practice. So you're given this data and you're told that you need to analyze it and in PowerQuery so that you can get that practice in. You are given this set of data that has many different rows, and there are a lot of different errors that appear, but in total there's almost 26,000 different sets of records in the data set. And so we're going to be manipulating these. The first thing you need to do is understand the methods that you're using to work with this data and manipulate it in a way that's meaningful. In the instructions, you're told that you don't want to be changing this data directly, and that's important. You should be in the workplace preserving the data that you're using so that you can track your changes, or at least so that the original data is preserved. And so what you're going to do this is first go to the Data tab, and then you're going to select Get Data from File, and then it's an Excel workbook, so Excel workbook, and you're going to select the data that is given to you. So it'll be this Powering Up PowerQuery file that is provided in the challenge. And then once you press Import, you will be given the chance to either import it directly. You're going to select the sheet, and you can press Load, and that'll load it directly into the sheet, or you can press Transform Data. And if you either way, you don't have to fret, you will get to the right place. But if you press Load, then you will end up with the query looking like this. These numbers aren't going to add up right now because I've changed the query, but it will look similar. And so what you're going to do is go to, once you get to this, you're going to see this little query tab that appears in the top right of the Excel, and then you can press Edit. And that will load it into the Power Query editor. As a note, this is exactly what you're going to see if you download my file and look in the solution. So what you're going to need to do is to fix this error is because the file path doesn't match up where you saved the data. So this input file path here, you're going to copy the file path where the challenge data is saved, and you're going to input it on top of that, and then once you press done, it'll refresh and load automatically. So Power Query is awesome because it preserves all of the different steps that you do with your data. So if we're at the bottom here and you press, okay, I don't want the count, then you can remove that row, and you can, or let's remove a column instead. So we select count, remove the column, and then it'll see remove columns. And so PowerQuery preserves these steps, and so you can easily analyze the steps that other people have done to modify your source data. And because this is a query that's pulling from this file that you have, it's creating a new file based off of that old one. So it's an efficient and very user-friendly way to see how you arrived at the solution while also preserving the source. And so looking at the source, navigation, and so the steps that you're going to make, and promoted headers. These 3 or 4 should all automatically happen upon uploading the query. So the steps that you're given are to first remove the errors that exist. And so the way you can do that is by going to transform, and then you're going to, no, sorry, not transform. You're going to go to this remove rows on the home tab, and you're going to remove errors from the rows that you select. So you're told that the errors exist in gross, fee, and net. And if you hold control, you can select all of them at once. And then you're going to select on remove rows, remove errors. Next, you're going to do the same thing, but except for blank rows. You're going to select the 3 and then remove rows, and there, remove blank rows. And if you remember that original file that we have, let's pull it up. If you go down, you're going to see, oh, here's an error that we have to get rid of, and it's in a blank row. If we go down, here's just a blank row, and so you see it's kind of hard to navigate the data when there's errors and blank rows and the data isn't clean. And so the reason we want to be doing this in our Power Query is because if we don't, then we will have challenges when we are manipulating the data to show us what we want. Next, we are told to replace a value, and you can do that by going to transform and then replace values. And when you click on replace values, then it will show this screen, and you're told that in the fees column you're going to have a lot of different 2s, and that's incorrect, and it should be 17. So you press OK, and then next is probably the most complicated one, is grouped rows. And so what you're going to do is go to home, and then you're going to say group by, and you can also do this in transform, group by. And when you do that, you're going to select advanced because we want to group on more than just one column. And so you're going to also do, and I'll just open up the one that I've done. You're going to do automatic payout ID and reporting category after you select add grouping, because it'll just show this first one. Next, you're going to add aggregations, and so you want a count of the rows, and then you can rename these however you want, but you want to make sure that each of them are a sum of their respective column for gross, fee, and net, with adding an aggregation between each one. And we want to do this so that we can get totals of each of these and add them as columns. So you see gross is no longer there because we now have aggregated data. So we have automatic payout ID, reporting category, and that's how we grouped them. And then the number of charges that exist for that one, and then the sum of each. And every other column disappeared because we decided that that group by was our aggregation that we wanted to use. So once you're done, you can close and load, and that will update your query to look hopefully like mine is right here. You're then told that you want to make a pivot table so that this information is a bit more clean and understandable, because right now it's kind of an eyesore. You can understand everything pretty easily, like there's a max of 3 and a minimum of 1 for each different customer, and then the different categories and the total for each one. but we want to get totals for these three columns, and we want subtotals per customer, and then a category for each one. Because we might see these three and say these are three different numbers, but if you sum them, then you're going to get $18,091. And so it'd be a lot easier to see that automatically. So if we go over, then we can see when we make the pivot tables. First, I think first you are told to do this one. And so you're going to make your pivot table. If you don't know how to do that, you go to Insert Pivot Table, and you're going to select it's actually easier if you select this first because it matches this table, and then you say pivot table and it'll automatically select all of the data that you have, and then you can choose the location. So you want this pivot table to just be the categories and not the customers. So you're going to group by rows with reporting category, and then you're going to do a sum of each of those columns that you created in your Power Query. So we have count, grosses, which is the sum of gross already, fees, and nets. And it'll, depending on what you named it, it'll show differently, and you can change the value here. And so that's nice because these are the solution numbers that we're looking for. 25,880, and then sum of gross, sum of fees, sum of nets with these values. And then your last pivot table that you're instructed to create is one that distinguishes these numbers between each customer. So the only difference is you're going to add this automatic payout ID also to the rows section, and you're going to remove the count because we already know how many total there are in the entire data set. And so we can see that number that we were looking at in the query between these three for grosses. Oops. A sum of 18,000 and a little, and here's that total right there for that customer. And it goes all the way down, and we have the same totals that are displayed at the top for sum of gross, sum of fees, and sum of nets. And so there you have it. Hopefully this video was very instructive to you, helped you learn a bit more about how to use PowerQuery and how it's useful when you're working with important data from clients, and how you can manipulate it to show you a consolidated piece of data that's useful for analysis to the clients that you are servicing. Thank you.